Once again, welcome back to Plot. Right, success. Right, good afternoon everybody. It's just turned 12 o'clock here in the northeast and it's an absolutely fantastic day. Beautiful. It's been like this all week, but glorious sunshine. But behold, it's been them and it's caught out. It's been some really frosty mornings. I was just watching the present on Northeast News last night. The weatherman, he's got a bit of an allotment somewhere up in the north here, and he was caught out really bad. Some of his plants were really shriveled, frosted, and no doubt there's been plenty of people over the country like that. It just, as I say, I'm never in any hurry to plant out. We're already come to the end of April here, and there's still loads of time. People that have lost plants left, right and centre. Just there's loads of time. I want to get cracking this morning because I've had loads of comments online that I've been looking at. People's suffering with their plants, wondering what the problem is. One of them last night, the first one, a lady down south somewhere had been potting up her tomatoes, and she was wondering what had happened to them. I mean, they looked really sick and poorly. And of course, some of the comments online, you shouldn't be feeding plants at all. Any young plants that's in you shouldn't be feeding them at all. Your compost is quite sufficient. If you've got a good multi-purpose composter like me, you make your own, you will not have to feed your plants, not when they're in such a small state. You get the nutrients wrong in the mixes and your pH just goes out the window. And of course, that's one of the main things if they're growing good, strong, healthy plants, is having a good root system and good roots that can take up the moisture and take up any nutrients that's in your compost to build a strong, healthy plant. When you start pushing all sorts of fertilizers into them, it knocks it all to hell and your plant just suffers. So one thing you don't do is feed young plants, especially tomatoes. I never feed mine if I have to feed them at all. If you go back on some of my videos, if you prepare your land properly, get it all ready, get a soil meter, check your figures on your meter. They're cheap enough to buy. And if you get a figure of around about 6, that's perfect. Between 6 and 7 for tomatoes. That's in your soil. You'll not have to do any feeding at all. Maybe later on, if you see a little bit scorch on the leaves or yellowing, you can add it. Somebody even says add a bit of Epsom salts. No, not when they're such young. You'll just destroy the root system. I'm a great believer in giving stuff Epsom salts if they're sickly when they're a big plant. But not when they're so small. I mean, we're talking tomatoes like these. Now there's my secret to potting off, and I showed you the other week in the video. I've got a couple of pots left. I never pot mine off until I got a decent enough size, and to me that's just perfect. And they've got a good little root system, so by the time you knock them out of there, never go any bigger than that. Or as I explained to the young lady, cup. That's the size I go to. Now she had hers in a pot like that. And to me, that's far too big. You're potting off far too quick. What happens is, you got a young plant like that, and you're putting it in a massive pot like that. The volume of compost in there, and you're watering that, it's freezing cold. Even water in the greenhouse at that temperature, your compost is still going to be cold by the time it gets wet. So that young tomato plant is going to suffer. So never over pot. It doesn't matter what you're potting off. I've got loads of stuff in here that I've been potting up, but I always start with my cups or my small pots, and then I move on to a bigger pot, and then again I move on to my 9cm pot, which is up the garden now. I've got loads of tomatoes potted off in bigger 9cm pots, but the difference is they've got a good root system and they can cope with a move, and that's the secret. Do not pot off any earlier or any bigger than the next size up, and that applies to any plant. I never give too much of a move before the plants get a good chance to get itself a good root system potted on, and that's a secret of growing really good plants. That was the first thing. There was quite a few things that caught my eye, you know, and if I could respond to every question that I've seen on Facebook, I would be on there for days non-stop. It's just some of the questions, you know, I catch my eye and I think to myself, that's so wrong, you know. Tomato plants, they'll grow great as long as you look after them. Really good compost. This is my own compost, once again, and this is a 3-2-1 mix. It's 3 of multi-purpose, 2 of good garden homemade compost, well sieved, 1 part chopped sand, and a couple of handfuls of bone meal. Now, bone meal is a long-lasting fertilizer. It can lie in your pots for up to 6 months feeding your plants. And I put a sprinkler of that in, but that's the only feed that they'll get. Now, my strawberries, when I show you, when we'll go up the plot this afternoon, I'll show you my strawberries. They've had 1 feed, and that's all, and they're absolutely beautiful, nice, big, strong, healthy plants. Once again, there were strawberries on the other day, and a woman had asked, should I start feeding them? No way. Don't feed them. You should have enough feed in your compost when you pot them up to let that plant last until it comes into flower. Once it comes into flower and it starts putting on the fruit, then you start feeding, not until. Because what's going to happen, you put all that feed into the baskets and that, and all you're going to get is lush growth. You're going to get loads of growth, all green, and no fruit. Same with tomatoes. If you start feeding far too early, all that feed is going to go into the plant itself. Big healthy leaves, or the plants look great, but at the expense of your fruit. So never put on too early and never feed too early. And that's 2 golden rules of mine, and I've stuck by that for years. But as I say, it's just helping people out, and never put on, as I say, never put on too quickly. Just be easy. I don't mind putting on. I can put on 3, 4, 5 times for a plant. It depends on when you want them, how early you want them. Now, these plants here, these last ones I'm putting off, that's more mine. That's a big tomato. That. Now, I don't want that tomato plant until the end of May, when my potatoes come out. So to me, I planted the seed at the perfect time, which is end of March, beginning of April. You see, we're into the 3rd week of April now. They're perfect little plants. They can go on another week if they want, because the roots are just starting to get to the bottom there. But by that time I break that pot up, you'll have 6 perfect little tomato plants ready to put up into cups. Sit in them cups for a fortnight. Once again, I'll move them onto a 9cm pot, which is just a bit smaller than that, or they'll end up in there, which is a 12cm pot, and they'll have a fantastic big root system for planting out at the end of May in the cold greenhouse. Easy as that. Nothing hard about tomato plants and strawberry plants, but I'll show you my strawberries when we get up there. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to crack on with cucumbers. Now, all the squash family are exactly the same: cucumbers, courgettes, zucchinis, marrows. I've got a couple of pumpkins set away, and they're a quite easy plant to grow. Yeah, there's nothing difficult about them at all. Just what people don't understand is cucumbers don't like a lot of water. Well, they do once they start growing, but when they're in their young stage, once again, there was somebody had put a picture up of cucumbers, and you could see straight away they were wilting. They had been out in the cold, and of course, one of the main things here is watering. Overwatering cucumbers. It's a no, you never do it. I always water my cucumbers from down below. Once again, you get back to my compost. Why I add the sharp sand? It's a nice gritty compost. Now, if you've got a nice gritty compost and you put them in a tray where you're planting, it just acts like a sponge, and it soaks the water up great for cucumbers. Just put them in an ordinary tray. These trays here, they've got no holes in, and you can just stand a couple of little pots in them, put the water in the tray, nice sandy compost, and it'll just soak the water up, and then take the pots out as you need be. Do not let standing water in the bottom of the tray. Once you see the standing water, it means that your plants have taken up all the water that they need. Take them out. And that was one of the tips I gave to the lady on the internet the other night. She says, how much water do I pour in the tray? Pour your water in the tray and let the plants decide how much water they want. They'll soak it up. You'll see a little brown patch come on the top of your plant pot. Then they know they're full. You can lift them, you'll feel the weight. Take them out. If there's any standing water in the tray, tip it out and put your plants back in. And they'll be fine for a few days, no problem. That's one of the main things that catches people out with cucumbers. So just watch. As I say, it's watering too much. One of the easiest methods is having your compost moist when you start with. I'm just going to knock this video for 2 seconds. Okay, right, back again. I was just getting a few of the pots sorted out, bit of compost ready. 2 varieties, well, three varieties I've got this year. One I've grew quite a few times. Socrates. Oh, it's like a little mini munch cucumber. Absolutely fantastic. Grown properly, go great. 5 seeds, £3. Bit of a bargain. Johnson seed, once again. Loads of comments online. What seed company do you use? I've used loads of companies, and I always tend to go back to the ones I get the best results from. Kings, Suttons, DT Browns. The list's endless. I've got about 5 really good favourites that I use. I send away for a lot of nice seed. A few of the seeds I don't have to. The likes of these I always find difficult to get it. I'll show you this because I'll be potting this off later on. I've just finished my blue lobelia off, and I had 2 trayfuls with 2 packets of seed from Wilkinson's, £1 a packet, and I've gotten 15 trays, multi-purpose, with 24 in a tray. 15 trays of lobelia, blue lobelia. I've got 10 trays of mixed trail lobelia, so that shows a difference in the seed count. And then I potted off the Livingston daisies. I've done all of them. I think I've got about 10 trays of Livingston daisies, and of course these are my all-time favourites, and these are the Swan River daisy. Now sometimes it's difficult to get these, sometimes I don't have them, but as you can see I grow them exactly the same way, 3 rows, and you find it much easier when you're pricking them off. And once again I prick these off into little bunches, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, whatever you fancy, into a nice pot. And what these will go into, these will go into there, and because they've got a really good root system on them, or I can put them into a multi-cell tray. As I say, I've got multi-cell trays here somewhere. I can put them into them if I want, and then once they fill that tray, because these are for the hanging baskets, so they'll be ready. I don't need them until the first week in June, so we're 6 weeks away yet, so there's stacks of time. And like I say, timing is everything. Get your timing right when you sow your seed, when you know you want them. As I say, I don't want these till June because my baskets don't go out until the first week in June. So these will be absolutely spot on for then, 5 weeks time. What I'll do is I'll let them go for another week, then I'll pot them off, and they'll be fine. And it's such an easy job to do, potting off. I can spend hours just tinkering away. If you get your timing right, and your plants will be ready when you need them, and that's it. That's the secret. Right, so these cucumbers, there's only 5 in this packet. What I should be doing is put my glasses on, but the sun being so bright today, it's going to reflect off them. So I'm going to persevere and try and get these done without it. So multi-purpose compost, really good, well drained compost. You know mine. My 3-2-1 mix, plenty of sharp sand. Pre-water your pots, pre-soaking, give them a really good soaking, just let them drain off. You see a little drop of water there just dropping out. And then with your cucumbers, always sow on the side. Just push them in to your compost on the side, and that way you've got much less chance of them rotting off in the wet compost. Now if it's well drained, it shouldn't matter. Push them in, there we have it. The seeds just gently pushed in, and then all I need to do is just to top off a little bit of compost on the top, not much, 1/4 inch of that, and that's the cucumbers away. That's it. That's my first one, Socrates. I'm just going to put them to one side because I treat all my squashes exactly the same way. Just small pots to start with, or once again, if you get a lot of seed, which you don't with cucumbers now, sow them in a multi-cell tray. Or as I say, I've got 2 or 3 varieties to go on this way, and there's one of my all-time favourites. I grow these every year without fail, and these are the Telegraph improved. Absolutely fantastic for a nice long cucumber. There's loads of different ways of growing cucumbers. It's looking after them that's a hard part. They can suffer from red spider mite. and they can't. Well, they do suffer from overwatering, and especially neck rot, and that gets it. If you got your compost really wet, where your plant meets the soil, you get what you call neck rot. Your plant will look fine one day, and it'll be totally collapsed the next day, and that's just one overwatering. But just be very careful with your watering, even when they're in the big pots. I stand mine in trays and I water the tray. The plants soak it up, and that way you haven't got as much moisture. If you haven't got trays and you have to water the pots, well, water around the outside of the pot, because your roots will fill out the pot, so they will still take in the water, but they'll not be at the neck where it's imperative that you try and keep it dry as much as you can. Melons, I've got a pack of melon here. There's another one of my favourites. Arava, I'll be sowing them today. So that's melons, cucumbers, and I'll get some courgettes, some zucchinis I've got up the allotment, and of course I've got a pack of sweet corn. I want to get the sweet corn in a day. Once again, why today is because I don't need my sweet corn until the first week in the end of May when taters come out. I'll be planting some in the polytunnel, and I'll be planting some outside in the garden, but I do not want them too quickly. So by sowing them today, in a week's time they'll be through. It's lots of heat, there's stacks of heat there in the greenhouses, so they'll come straight through pretty quickly if you sow them correctly. We'll do that up the pot this afternoon. Get them sown correctly, and you'll have a nice strong plant. Once again, they'll go into either a 9cm pot or a bigger one. It depends on how fast they grow. A nice big strong plant ready for planting into the polytunnels. So easy to do, you know. It's one of them things, if you just take your time potting on little bits at a time. I mean, I've got tomatoes here. I've got Gardener's Delight. Yeah, they've just been potted up a couple of days, and to me they're absolutely perfect. They're spot on. Seedling leaves. Check your seed. If you're buying tomatoes in, or you're getting them given, just have a look. If they've got the seedling leaves on and they've been grown correctly, they've had no check, they've had no frost damage, no cold spell. You get a cold spell in a tomato, it'll not thank you. No way. They're just like us, you know. Too hot and they start, whoa, too cold, and they do exactly the same thing. You know, just a perfect, nice temperature. My door's wide open, my window's wide open. There's no heating on. I knock a little heater off every morning, first thing, and put it back on in the evening. Because we had a frost this morning, just a little bit frost on the garage roof, but the temperature dropped down to 38 in here. And now, with the windows open, it's 75. So it just goes, doors wide open, so the fresh air can blow straight through, keep them nice and fresh and cool. And that's as I say, that's the secret of growing really good tomatoes. It's not difficult to grow a good tomato, and it's not difficult to grow any plant, really. You know, just take your time with them. One last thing before we go up the garden. Well, we're on about the feeding. Oh, this is a subject really close to my heart. There's a lady when we mentioned, I think it was the strawberries, mentioned about the feeding, and a lady says, "Oh, I've heard that pea is a really good feed." Well, you're right, it is. It's absolutely full of nutrients. And I use it, believe it or not. So if you're in the plot and you want a pea, well, don't forget the pea in a pot. And that's my secret. But I don't feed. Sometimes I feed the tomatoes. I pour it into the tomato water, and I feed them on that. But what I mainly do with mine, of course, I live upstairs in the flat, so there's no way I'm going to keep running up and downstairs when I need a pea. So I just pea in a pot, and it goes on the back, and I use it on my compost beds, on the compost bins, and it's a really good accelerator for your compost. Pour that over your compost. Keep a cloth. I've got some old blankets there, some old carpets that I keep on top of the compost, and I just pour the pea on top of there, and it's a good accelerator for hastening the rotting down of your vegetation. So that's what I use my pea for. But yeah, it has been known. The Romans used it here thousands of years ago when they brought the tomatoes over. Some clever dick noticed that the best tomatoes and the sweetest tomatoes were grown down near the where there was a sewage pit, and sewage was running out or lying about, and the tomatoes were the sweetest and the best I've ever seen. So that just goes to show you. But yes, to answer your question, who answered it, give us a thing the other night. Yes, I do use urine. 9 times out of 10 it goes into the buckets of water. once the plants are up, once it's a decent sized plant, never when they're young, when they're little like this. This is one of the things that shocked me when I seen it. It was the same with the Epsom salts. If they're too young, never feed plants when they're young like that. Sometimes I'll give them a tiny drop, and I always keep bottles handy. Sometimes if I think a plant is struggling, and then I'll give them a touch of seaweed fertilizer, but very, very rarely. You should have in your compost enough to keep your plant going for at least 4 weeks, and by that time you're moving on. 3 to 4 weeks you're moving on into another pot, fresh compost. Once again, there's nutrients in that compost. That should be enough to feed that young plant's roots. Never overfeed. You're just complicating things far too much. The plants will tell you when they want to feed once they start growing. As I say, with your tomatoes, the same with your strawberries, let them get their fruits on before you start feeding. The same with your tomatoes, let the tomatoes get the fruit on before you start feeding. You should have enough feed in your ground. If you prepared your beds well, you should have enough feed in that ground to sustain that plant until you start using artificial fertilizers. Me, I try to keep away from as much as I can. You know what I've got at the garden? I've got barrels of comfrey, I've got barrels of nettle juice. Horse manure is one of the great things. Get an old onion bag, fill it with horse manure, tie it, and suspend it in a water barrel, and it just goes like brown tea. I've never tasted it, but it looks fantastic, and it's a great source of nutrients. Once again, you can feed out your tomatoes, and the moisture is going straight to the roots. That's the secret of that. Doesn't have to rot down. It's going straight to the roots, and the roots are taking that straight up. Loads of different fertilizers you can use. Seaweed, you can rot seaweed down the barrel, just the same. And but that's it. Just a few tips on sowing. I'm going to knock off now anyway, and then we'll get ourselves a plot this afternoon, and we'll try and get this week going soon. Okay, see you all again soon. Right. Well, I've finally managed to get up here. After a bit of to and fro down home. Of course, the wife's not too grand again after getting a second injection, so I've had her see to bits and pieces, dinner, laundry, and then of course I'm back up the plot here. So I want to paddle on for an hour up here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this video because I've got stacks of potting off to do. If you remember the other night on my Facebook page, on the plot, I was telling you about the greenhouses, like buses. You get one and then two come along. Well, here they are. Absolutely brilliant. 2 8x6s, all glass, all lead fittings, openings, everything on them. So I'm going to spend, what I've had to do is to put 2 new foundations down. So over the last couple of days I've spent putting pathways and that in, and they're already up and secured. So Sunday afternoon I'm hoping to get one glassed in, and Monday morning get the other one done. Absolutely fantastic. They're going to come in really handy because over here where the 100-foot greenhouse is, me and Roger's decided that it's got to come down. It's 15-year-old and it's actually built from pallet wood, and I had 12 old colliery sleepers that I used for side posts, and built the pallet wood around it and built a framework around that, and it was as cheap as chips. It's been up 15 years, can't I complain. Been a fantastic greenhouse, but it's going to come down, and these 2 glass houses will take a place until we decide if we're going to put another greenhouse up there or build a smaller polytunnel to go up the side, but that's all for next year. That as I say, we're never stopping the garden, we're always building something. We're like beavers. But the back shed at the back there, you can see I'm been working inside of there, putting shelving and that in, so it's that's nearly ready to rock. But the garden's fantastic. All the plots ready, all the beds have been dug, leveled out, so they're all ready for planting. We're going to be doing a bit of planting next week, runner beans and whatnot. So we'll use one of these bottom beds. I'll put the runner, put the canes and that in, a few lines, and we'll get cracking on there. But that's a job for next week. I've got loads to do this week. So we'll crack on anyway. We'll get there. I'll give you a little look inside the melon house. These doors, say, I've usually got these wide open. I meant to do it this morning when Roger was up. Peach tree at the back there, that was in full bloom the other week. Absolutely marvellous. In here we've got a multitude of plants. As you can see by here, remember the dahlias I was talking about the other week and my way of potting them up? So there's my dahlias there, and of course I'll be in next week's video. We'll do the dahlias, how I like to do them, and we'll do the marigolds exactly the same. As I was pointing out, the tomatoes are just there. We've got almost 100 of them, and these are some of the next one that we potted up from the corner ones, from the small corner cups to the half pint cups, and then if need be, which I've got in the far greenhouse, I've got some in paint pots which I'll move on once again. Now them two greenhouses are going to come in really handy this year, because I have got some tomatoes that's nearly ready, but we've got early potatoes in the bottom, we've got cabbages in here, so we can't really throw anything out just yet until we get until I get rid of these crops. So what we'll do, we'll get the glass in them two top greenhouses and we'll put some early tomatoes in there. But it's everything's grown great. These, remember the dahlia cuttings we took the other week? Well, nearly a full tray of them there, absolutely marvellous, romping away. And of course, all I like to do here is come in each day and give them a good spray, tepid water, and it keeps them nice and pert, and they just romp away. Trayfuls of Busy Lizzie, they'll be the next to be potted off. Peppers and chilies, lobelia, more tomatoes. They are in the second stage. They're nearly full of roots, so by next week I'll be potting them up again into paint pots. And of course they're my tigrella, lovely stripy tomato. I've got about 5 different varieties this year. Up on the top there, it's lobelia. Trays of lobelia I've been potting off. It's a full-on job. Cabbages are absolutely fantastic. We've got some marvellous cabbages here. There's nice pointy ones, nice big round ones. And of course, all the leaves go to the chicks. They love them. There's my other dahlia cuttings. Now, what's the job I must do tomorrow? I get these cuttings taken off, and that'll be there. That's probably the last time, the end of this month, I take cuttings, because I like to root them into May, and then have them ready for planting out in June. Cape daisies, loads of them. Collie, sweet corn just popping through there. I'm going to put some more in this afternoon. Collie, cabbage, sprout. These are all the brassicas were potted off the other week, and of course they've grown absolutely marvellous. First class little plants. Never in any hurry to get me brassicas out. As I say, second week in May is perfect for me. The Billy Lamb onions, I potted them up the other week into small pots, and they're growing away really well. So, as I say, the strawberries I mentioned, oh, look at these. These are the parent plants. They're absolutely first class. They're spot on. There's not a mark on them. Lovely green, plenty of green foliage. No flowers yet. There was a couple the other week, just with a few small flowers on over at the far side. But these ones, they're fine. So they get no feed whatsoever. What's in the pots is feeding them plants. With the compost that you put in, it's keeping them going. And of course, once the flowers come on and you've got small immature fruits in, that's when I'll start feeding. But as I've mentioned, there's plenty of alternatives that you can use. Manure water, nettle juice, comfrey, seaweed. There's loads of different methods you can use to feed your plants. If you make a first class mix up to start with, and then they'll not be relying on you to feed them. All they get off me is some sulphate of potash early on in the season, and that just helps promotes that early growth when they're starting to come back into life. And that's all they get off is. Apart from, like I say, once the fruit comes on, I might give them a few little feeds of tomato feed. But I say most of the stuff comes out of the barrel, horse manure, water, and it'll be fine. That's what the large garlics, just in there. These are in pots, in ring culture pots. But I'm going to try and get a few little small Chinese cabbage in between them, the ones I was grown in the other greenhouse. We'll pop them in later on when we get through there. I'll just give you a quick look in this bottom tunnel. This is Roger's been working really well in here. As you can see, the potatoes, and this is our jazzy potatoes. They're absolutely fantastic, lovely, plenty of foliage on them. They're getting well watered. We've got the weepy hoses down, and of course here we've got our strawberries in our baskets. And as you can see, once again, first class little plants, really lovely and clean. And once again, no feed. All I've had is what feed is in the baskets. when we first started off. Really good homemade compost with a little bit of bone meal added, and that sustains them plants right way through. They've had nothing apart from that little bit of sulphate of potash, and of course they get sprayed every fortnight. I always make it a rule of thumb that is there, and you know me spray the bicarb of soda, a little bit of Epsom salt, and of course the Epsom salt's helping with potassium, so you know the plant's getting all the goodness that you're giving it with them sprays, and of course it's keeping the bugs down, which is the main thing. Let's get into this is one of the sheds, but this is going to be totally revamped. We've got a fire pit down there. We're going to install this here, but up to here, this middle greenhouse here, we're going to try and save this part because we renewed all this roof just 2 years ago, and we renewed all the side panels. But from this door onwards, right up, as you see, the bend in the side, it's really starting to bend out. The posts have all gone, all them posts, and we're going to have to take them all out. We'll take all this section down right up at the top, and we might just build a new polytunnel along here. But we'll see what next year brings. As I say, that's another job for next week. That's the marigolds, and I'll show you exactly how I like to pop mine off, the same as the dahlias. Leave them in the trays, don't be in too much of a hurry. If you've been following me, like I told you, with the marigolds, you can see them, full tray fulls there. They want a good drink tonight. That's just one thing I forgot to mention over the last couple of videos. If you're doing any potting off, just make sure you give your plants a really good soaking the night before, and that just helps. Another thing is my mixture with the sand. Once again, the sand not only gives you good drainage, but when you're picking your plants out, when you're pulling them apart, that compost should just fall apart, and you've got nice little plants with nice little roots on, with a good bit of soil wrapped around them. Once again, with strawberries in the baskets. You can still see the last of the spray I put on a fortnight ago. Little white blotches on the leaves, but that's keeping them really clean. There's not a beast in sight. Now here's a little. We've got nipped, and these are the Winston potatoes, and these are the only ones I've got nipped with a frost. They haven't done too much damage, because as I say, this is a really cold greenhouse in here. It's the eaves are open, the fresh air comes through the eaves, whereas the bottom polytunnels they're completely closed in, and that's how we've got that little bit of frost in here, but it hasn't done too much damage. And as I say, the strawberries, well, they just romping away. I'm back up the top here. All this is going to come down, and as I say, we'll probably build either a new polytunnel or a new greenhouse up here. But I'm going to put this stick down. It's a telescopic stick. It's a little bit awkward to use, but sometimes when you're getting around the garden, it's a lot easier to use than the camera. I'm going to pop down and put the camera on the tripod, and I'll finish this video off. Okay, we'll try and get these sweet corn in. There we are. Right, back inside again. Usual potting space. This afternoon, I want to get some more sweet corn planted out. Now I've got French beans, Contender, and Maxi Dough, and I've got a couple of packets behind here which I like to grow all the time. Yes, there's a climbing bean, Blue Lake, that's one of my favourites. Absolutely fantastic little pods off them, great. So I'll be planting them next week. But today what I want to do is to get a few more sweet corn in, and of course I don't. Every now and again I like to push a boat out and get the F1 varieties. Not often I do, but for 150, not bad. And of course, this is incredible. And all I like to do is a little 9-cell tray, multi-cell tray, and just pop that impression in with your finger. Quite easy to do. Of course, it's been multi-soaked. Get really good soaking and let it drain through. And all you've got to do is go along and pop your kernels in. Not too deep. When you want about 1/4 inch. This time of year, the temperatures are really up. They're not going to get too cold. And of course, these are just going to sit in a cold greenhouse. Up on the bench here. A little bit of soil over the top of them. Once again, timing is everything. So I don't need these until the end of May, beginning of June, when that bottom polytunnel will be cleared of potatoes, hopefully. And of course we'll have the space to once again check our soils. We'll get a probe, get a soil probe, stick it in, see what the reading is. If I'm between 5 and 7, quite happy, won't do anything with it. The only thing I might do is give it a good liming, because after potatoes, before potatoes I never lime, as you know, so there's going to be no lime in the soil. So what I'll do is I'll just get a quick marker with a probe, see what the reading is, and if need be I'll put a good scattering of lime over, but that'll be it. Plenty of feed will be in the soil, because there was loads of manure put in there last year before we planted potatoes, so there should be plenty, and that's what I keep going on about. There should be plenty of feed in the soil. I know the potatoes are a heavy feeder, but the stuff that I'm going to have following on behind, like the sweet corn and that, I can always make a balance up later on with powdered seaweed or anything like that. And of course with these I'll be using out the barrels. They should be fine. I'll be putting a few squashes in there, a few marrows, or a few courgettes, just to fill it up. I might even have a few odd tomatoes in there, little bush tomatoes, just to fill the whole bed up. I've got some tobacco growing this year. It's the first time I've grown it, so I'm going to try putting a few plants in the bottom polytunnel and just see how they grow in there. But that's just another little trick I'm trying out for this year. But I'll give you a good look around. We've been really busy this last couple of weeks. I'm taking stuff from here down home, and when I get a chance, I'm nipping outside and doing the potting off, and then bringing it back up on my barrow, and that's the only way really I can do it. We're not out of lockdown just yet, and the wife's still shielding till the next few weeks, until we know it's pretty safe. So you know, we're just taking our time. We're not hurrying, and we're trying to get as much done as we can, especially on these sunny days. I get it back up in the evening, and I do all the locking up, all the watering down of an evening, and then Roger's up first thing again in the morning. He'll knock the heater back off again, because we've still got a little paraffin heater burning in the bottom in the melon house, and especially in the begonias and the petunias, are just giving that little bit of frost-free protection, because the nights have been really cold here in the northeast. We've had frosts for about 5-6 days on the trot. Wake up in the morning, you wouldn't believe it. It's been really frosty, and then by 9 o'clock the sun's out, and it's absolutely beautiful. But we'll make the most of what we've got. But anyway, I'm going to get stuck in. Just a quick video this week, letting you know what we're up to, what we're doing. Next week I'll be concentrating on potting off. I'll be starting the dahlias off. I might do a few more cuttings in next week's video, but the cuttings I took the other week are rotten away, and I'll be potting them off probably next week, so I might include that in the video. But if I get started on my beans and peas, and then I'll certainly add that. But I want to put the dahlias up. That's the young dahlias. That's the dahlias for the garden. Just the flowering dahlias, small ones. I'll show you how I'll put them up, and I'll do the marigolds at exactly the same time. I've done it for years, a different way. As I say, I've got some strange ways, but they work for me. You know, it's like I keep saying, if it works for you, do it. You know, not everything's wrote in stone in the garden. Everybody's got a different idea and different take on different things. But when it comes down to feeding young plants and stuff like that, you know, I'm dead against it. As I said at the beginning of the video, you really don't need to feed young plants like that. Let them get picked up. Let them use what nutrients in the compost, and by then they should get themselves a good root system. And that's one reason I never pot off too early. I never prick off too early. Sorry. When you're pricking off your first seedlings, always let them get a nice little root ball on them first. I've seen people pricking them off as soon as they break the 2 leaves. To me, I can't see the point in it. You know what I mean? I just like to leave mine until I get a really good root system on, and then I prick them up. They're not doing them any damage by letting them get a little bit bigger, and that's certainly not starving, because they get all the feed in the compost for them. But that's it for this video anyway. So I hope I'll give you a few tips, and hopefully I'll give you a bit of encouragement to get outside and get in the garden and get planting. I've got loads of lettuce and that to go out this week, so we'll have a kind of video for next week when I get a bit more time. Keep on subscribing, keep on posting, and keep on your comments down below. if you can't wait for the video, and you can catch me on my Facebook page. It's Jeff Fulman on the plot, and send me a friend's request, and we'll get you signed up, and you can speak with most nights on the through the week on the internet. I'm usually on there most nights, like I say, doing bits and pieces and doodling, answering messages and questions and whatnot. But yeah, that's for the time being. We'll knock off now, and we'll catch up with you next week. We'll have another full video on potting off and seedlings. Okay, so what should I do? And I'll see you all again soon.